Hey, I believe we are live. I'm starting to get this actually. It's pretty cool. Going live here. Today, Dave DeHilster with my Ohio State shirt on. Yes, that's where I went. So I'm sure people, I did notice some of my subscribers saying they're going to come this way, so I really appreciate that. Again, this is David DeHilster. I'm with I am a dissident scientist and critical thinker, and I am here to be your science therapist to make you woke. Science woke. Oh, look at that. I've got to get that down because I've got to watch it on my phone here, and it's like, oh, that's what's really happening there. I've got the chat in a different couple places, so I'll be watching it. And if you're tuning in after this is recorded, I really appreciate your patronage, and of course, not patronage in the sense of paying for anything, but at least watching the videos and giving yourself a chance to become science woke, because that is the idea. Because there are literally thousands and thousands of scientists around the world who've been working many decades outside the mainstream, who have found problems, identified those problems, they've solved a lot of those problems, and who are proposing new theories and models. And you're not going to find anything like this on the internet, as I say in my spiel, so you want to make sure you do go down below and click that subscribe button, little bell next to it, and you'll be alerted to when our next video drops, or in this case, when I am going live. Hey, Lisa. Glad to see you, and I know that Lisa started watching my movie Einstein Wrong, and that's sort of like an entertaining film. This is not a film that you are going to put all your friends to sleep. It is actually it is a film that we made for general audiences. So even if you don't care about Einstein being wrong, it is a great film, great music, a great story. It was filmed over, my gosh, almost 10 years. So I was, yeah, he says that doc. Oh, did you finish it, Lisa? I don't know if she finished that film. And if you are interested and you're watching this, I will tell you later on how you can watch it. Again, it's a great and entertaining film. Great music. So we'll find out. We've got some more people coming. Today I think I'm going to, I guess there's people here already. Yeah, thank you for attending, and great to see everybody. Yeah, I've got 4 people watching now. Welcome. I'm going to talk about something really fun today. So I always try to think of stuff that is going to make this worth people's while, because I do find out that people watch these videos. You guys watch these videos after the fact, and I get lots of watch time on them. Some of them are averaging 20-30 minutes, which is pretty darn good, even though we have an hour, usually an hour and a half I'm here. But again, if you have any questions or comments or anything, of course, just let me know. And I guess Lisa Hauserman, she watched the whole thing, and like I said, it tested very well. We tested it with an audience in a theater with people who are not scientists, and the overall reaction has been very good. Why didn't it make it into the film festivals? Well, the reason is it almost made it into the Oxford Film Festival in England. Why? Because, and I'm sorry to bore you if I told you the story before, but because they're not big fans of Einstein. They really like Newton a lot better than Einstein. So I was talking to a person there, and I made it into the finals, and they were just worried about the controversy. A lot of those people are what I call intellectuals, not critical thinkers, and this is something that I'm trying to put into our vocabulary. For those of you who don't know, I've got a master's in linguistics. I do care about language because I work with supercomputers and human language, and we write programs to read text and that. But the reason I use the term intellectual versus critical thinker is intellectuals are those people who want to be up to date on anything. They don't critically think on anything. They just accept what's fed to them by the mass media, by what their professors tell them. They don't investigate things themselves. And therefore, if you come and you say that Einstein, in fact, is wrong, they just laugh, because the first reaction, well, if he's wrong, why doesn't everybody know about it? Well, actually, there is an answer, and that are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, and maybe millions of people know that, because a lot of people who are engineers, who are taking like a class in physics, 101 and they get to special relativity and they talk about mass increase and time dilation, time slowing down and length contracting, well then all of a sudden they are totally turned off because they're never told why those things happen. You are never told why. And so they leave the profession of physics or leave the option of becoming a physicist off the table and say, you guys are crazy. They pass their tests and they go on. So that's why I think this channel and this whole idea of Science Woke, which go to sciencewoke.org. You'll find, in fact, that there is a website there, and I've been working on that. I'm actually working on putting the latest theories on there and writing an article about why we are in a place where there are more than one theories being proposed at this time, because we are in the middle of a scientific revolution. So anyways, going back to the film festivals, which I sent to over 80 of them, and I had funding to do that kind of stuff. The intellectuals are the ones who are the gatekeepers to film festivals. Now, these people are usually introverted nerds like me. No offense, I can say that because I'm a nerd. And those people are intellectuals, and they look at this. Some guy sent a movie about Einstein being wrong. A lot of them don't even see it, or if they watch it, they'll say, "Well, I like it, but this is too controversial. We don't want to have crackpot films at our festival." I was really, really disappointed at that because I really figured that that's what documentaries are supposed to do. That's what documentarians are supposed to go out there and bust open wide something that no one knows about. And do it in an entertaining way, and that's what I did. I mean, I had Ron Hatch, who has over 30 patents, telling you that GPS shows you the flaws in relativity, says that space-time is a joke. This is a guy who pretty much works with time and GPS, who is supposed to be, of course, showing us that he's supposed to be showing us that GPS uses relativity, and that's not true. A good story about that was, maybe I've said, there's some more people. Welcome, everybody. But it's funny that when we talk about GPS and relativity, one of the people who actually worked in GPS, sitting next to my friend Greg Volk. Greg Volk is my buddy in the dissident world. The person leaned over to him during the talk and says, "Hey, Greg, it's a little dirty secret, but all of us in GPS, we don't use relativity. We don't care if they think that it is relativity because they're never going to get their algorithms." That's the problem. See, GPS people are not going to talk about it because they don't want to bring up the controversy, first of all. They don't want to be the ones to say Einstein's wrong. Second, they're not going to show their algorithms to prove that they're not doing it because those are proprietary. GPS positioning is worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. So they don't care. It's sort of like Area 51. They want everybody to have all the rumors about things because they don't care, because they can go about on their secret next plane or next weapon or whatever and let everybody think there's aliens running around everywhere. They don't care because they like that because it distracts. So anyways, let's take a look at this. He says, when your mom said, "I'm just a normal person," and it's a seminar, I lost it. Yeah, that is the moment in the film. When we screened that to a big audience, man, we got guffaw laughs at that. That was I was going through the I don't remember if it was me or my editors. I had some really great editors on that film. One worked in TV extensively, another person worked on documentaries. And that's one of the reasons why that film was so good. I wasn't the editor, although I took it over after we got the story there. But that was a golden moment. The other golden moment, Lisa, which is really, really interesting, is I had my mom, if you watch the movie, I gave her a list of 50 physicists to call. And 50 universities to call to try to get somebody who was a pro-Einstein person to be on film. We would fly out there, whatever we would have to do that. And so I had her call up. So I put the tripod with the camera on. This is back before iPhones and high-def. High-def cameras when I started my film in 2005 were $40,000. So I, didn't use high-def film. I had to use what they call mini DV, which is actually the 4:9. It's not even the wide stuff that you're looking now. You're looking at better quality than what I had, but it's digital. So I sat it on a tripod, told my mom how to turn it on, and she would then turn it on and record. And I gave her lots of tapes, and when the tape was nearly running out, she would do it. She would push the button, sit down, and make calls. And then about 2 months later, she comes back to me, or I think 3 months later, I went to the house, and she handed me the tapes and the box, and she says, "Go get your camera. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to kill somebody if I keep calling these people up." And the reason she got so jaded is every time she called, people were really treating her poorly. And of course, I couldn't really do too much with that because they didn't have permission to use that. And she said, and I said, "Mom, well, did you get anybody who's willing?" "No, I didn't." And she gave me the tapes. So I was sort of, I figured, okay, what I'll do is I'll try to put together people hanging up, people getting mad, all that kind of stuff. And I had a backup plan if we didn't have it. So I'm going through all the tapes, which no one really did, except myself. I had a lot. I was about halfway through the film. So I'm going through the tapes, listening and listening and listening. And it turns out that I'm listening, and all of a sudden my mom calls this one guy and says, "Well, yes, we're doing a film called Einstein Wrong. We're looking for somebody who would be willing to answer questions on camera or during this phone call. Would you be interested?" And the person said yes. I lost it. I almost couldn't even watch it because I was afraid that somehow we didn't capture it or it didn't come out. You couldn't hear it. And sure enough, we got the scene in the film where the guy literally agrees to it during the phone call. We put it on there, and we have what do they call captions there for it. And that was that story, because my mom, the two things, my mom says, "Don't you ever ask me to call anybody up again." And I said, "Why, Mom?" She says, "People were so rude. They thought it was crazy. They would hang up on me." And of course, that's the reaction. And if you see if you look up, I think it's the third most popular video I have. It's with Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and that guy, when he was asked whether Einstein could be wrong, just laughed, and he said, "We've got so much proof for it that it will never be shown wrong." It's like, what? Anyways, that's an interesting story. Which ideas from mainstream science can a dissident scientist not agree with? Are there any? Which ideas from mainstream science can a dissident scientist not agree with? I'm not sure, Pyro, if you're asking, this is like, is it okay to think everything is waves and the object-oriented world is just a cross-section, and we can see it because of how our neurobiology... Well, there's a couple of things you're asking there. I can sort of untangle it a little bit. I appreciate the questions very much. It says, which ideas in mainstream science can a dissident science not agree with? Are there any? I think if you're trying to say, is there anything in mainstream science that the mainstream scientists will be okay with us disagreeing with? That's a good question, actually. Man, I'm going to have to think about that. Very good question. Now, if that's your question, but even if it's not, it's still a good question. Wow. Well, you know, not even the neutrino. The neutrino, even 10, 15 years ago, was looked at, or even 30, 40, 50 years ago, was looked at as sort of like, yeah, this is a joke because it was so ridiculous. It's still ridiculous. It's just that, you know, generations die out and you forget about the ridiculousness. So that not so much. The only thing I would say, and this happens, and it's in the film actually, so watch my film. If you're interested in watching my film, let me know. I will let you know. You can watch it, and it's in the film. In fact, the guy who agreed to be asked questions about Einstein being wrong or right or whatever, he did say, he said, well, this is I'm copying him. Well, you know, it is the case that if some young person comes along and shows us some big error where we've gone wrong, that in fact we could all be wrong. But what's really interesting in that answer is a preface that it's not gonna happen ever to that person or the mainstream, because if a person, we've got that already. We've got lots of them. In fact, we've got Borkert within infinity. We've got Yonel Denou with his underwater experiment showing what magnetism really most likely is physically. We've got ether theories. We've got particle theories that are competing. Lattice theories. Those three theories are the ones competing right now, and we have all kinds of papers, literally thousands of papers showing Einstein wrong. Dr. Karazani, my mentor, I think is probably the best, but there's still other ones. My father has one on the, if you go to the youtube.naturalphilosophy.org, look at our most popular videos. The second one is my dad's talks about special relativity. So we have those people. The problem is they don't want to listen to them. So that's just normal. Your second part of your question, it says, you said, let's see. Let me see here. I'm sorry about this. All sorts of guys. Says, I'm going to go back up here. I think I'm missing. There, okay. Oh, okay. Like, is it okay that everything is waves in an object-oriented world? And I don't know. It's all what you're proposing is you have a theory, or you have some theory you subscribe to, it's or your own. That's absolutely totally good. Yeah, and you'll say, you have all sorts of guys in your group, each one with the different things that do agree with mainstream, that has different things they do agree with mainstream. Yep, absolutely. There are people who believe neutrinos exist. I think the majority of people in our group believe neutrinos exist, and they just don't look into it. Or I've talked about this. There's a video I have on this, so if you go back and take a look, I can't remember which one it was, but I talk about this. People cherry pick. One of the problems with dissident scientists, they cherry pick as well. They come up with their theory, they fall in love with it, and then they cherry pick things like ether theory. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. I want to just go through the questions here. So yeah, absolutely. There are people we have that argue special relativity is right in our group. Guess what though? Our group allows that. That's why I claim on the new website you're going to see, hopefully in the next coming months, this year, I hope, in sciencewoke.org, is that we are the best society, and we are the best, the CMPS is the best scientific society out there. Even if Electric Universe is a subset of us in the sense of, yeah, they say the opposite. That's their privilege. But there are other theories. They believe electrical. A lot of us believe other things. But regardless, the CMPS allows for all criticisms of other people's dissident work, which I've done. I did a video on that in the CMPS youtube.naturalphilosophy.org. Go there and you'll see one I do on ether. And the etherists have problems. I'm going to talk about that today. But our group allows you to agree with things in the mainstream and write papers about it and argue against other people. You can argue against Big Bang, anything. It's all fair game as long as you write a scientific paper that we feel is worthy of science going forward. And yep, absolutely. All right, let's keep going down. Wow, Pyro's Pyro 314, that's like what, 3.1415926 pi says, but do you agree with any, let's see, but each of you disagree with different mainstream systems. Okay, you did that, I did that, sorry. Is there anything in mainstream science that is unacceptable, or does that anything go? Let's see, is there anything in mainstream science that in your view is unacceptable in dissident science, or does anything go? Yeah, I think I talked about that. Scientists that agree with mainstream science, that's totally fine. If you can, it's harder and harder to do that though. From what I gather, it's in different pages. Okay, but I can speak pretty much Einstein being wrong. I hope I'm right, but that's what I took from the film. Like I said, nobody should believe what I say. Look at what we have. My goodness, Einstein relativity. Oh my gosh, we have what, thousands of papers about how it's wrong. You got to look at it yourself. I mean, relativity is wrong. Here's the first thing. They tell you in class, the first thing is in special relativity, the mass increases. Let's just take that one. Why? What's the mechanism for it? Why does it do that? And the reason it does that is because Einstein said there are certain rules in the universe that the universe must follow. And he's sort of like, if the facts don't fit the theory, change the facts. So start with that. Tell me anybody in this group or anybody on this planet what causes mass increase. And guess what? It's not observed in particle accelerators. I had one brave guy who agreed to be in my film who was a pro-relativity guy. But he says they don't observe mass increase in particle accelerators. Where else would you see it? Well, they say, well, it gathers mass at the end. It's a long story. That's not true either. So, here we go. Justin Olson, welcome. Would you agree that the assumption that the biggest flaw with relativity is time dilation? No, I don't think that, because if you look at Karazani's work, I think it is a problem. And time dilation, if you watch my movie, you'll find out that time dilation was not proved by supposedly the around the world clock experiment. In fact, the guys, I will tell you that story from the movie. Dr. Eberly Spencer, who's 98 years old now, she's a vegetarian. Like myself, I'm a whole plant-based diet, reversed my heart disease. I have no more heart disease. So anybody who's having problems with health out there, go to a whole plant-based diet, man. That's the only diet ever shown to reverse chronic diseases, all of them. Yeah, why doesn't everybody know? Well, actually, lots of people are going to know. But the interesting story about her, she is a vegetarian. Her family is, and she's 98, and she's still alive and kicking. Well, she got her degree from MIT, PhD, and she asked for the data from Heffel and Keeley or whatever. Please don't get me on names. I'm terrible at names. We linguists always are. I don't know what that is. But they got the raw data from those guys. Now, that is a big mistake. Here's the number one thing you want to do as a scientist if you want to fudge your data, which they did like crazy. They put atomic clocks on planes and flew them around the world in different directions. And of course, time dilation, the one on the ground and the one in the plane should have a difference. Now, that's what they were supposed to show. Well, she called them up and figured that she would get some interpreted data, because if you give them raw data, if you give your raw data to anybody else, guess what? You are open to absolute criticism, because you can say no. And you know what happened with the time dilation experiment that everyone quotes and talks about in the books? Here's the answer. They literally picked, and in the film she talks about this. This is not always really clear in the film. It's one of the things that I think it's a little unclear. But basically, with that experiment, what happened was she found out that they picked a point on the time. So basically, you have a atomic clock on the ground, atomic clock in the plane. Then you start your experiment, which is when the plane starts moving. That's when it happens, because that's when you start the experiment, because otherwise the clock's in the same frame and there's no difference. So that's when you start. It turns out that the only way they could fit the data to justify time dilation, to support Einstein, was to pick a data point on the graph that they graphed 25 hours before the experiment started. I mean, is that absolutely nuts? I mean, that's absolutely nuts. Watch my film, that's in there. So this is time dilation. So yeah, that's a flaw. But I think the bigger flaw is what Karazani found, and that is in the mathematics of putting together the derivation for special relativity. And that is, it's pretty simple. I can give you a simple explanation, and I think that's a better explanation. So it's not, I can't do this very well. Yeah, here's a frame. Let's see if I can do that. And here's a frame. Move this over. There we go. So this is the way. So this frame here contains this frame. This frame here is you on the ground watching a train go by. This frame here is Einstein in that train with a light source. And this train then is moving. Okay? So you do all the calculations and you get those equations of Einstein's, which says time slows down, mass increases, and length contracts. Karazani shows you that these two frames, do it again, There we go. Man, I can't. There we go. I got to get backwards, I can see everything backwards. This frame here, and this frame here, mathematically is not needed, because if you have a light source on the train, it's now a point. You can measure that from this frame, that if you put 2 frames or 3 frames, those frames collapse mathematically. You can show mathematically that the frames that are used in deriving these wild and crazy special relativity equations are redundant. That you invent, he says, what he shows is you get this midterm velocity that doesn't really exist. You have the velocity of the frame and then the velocity of the object in the frame, and the reality is you can measure everything from one frame. And if you want to say it in layman's terms, there are no frames. There's only one 3-dimensional space. You can only put a origin at one point, and from that origin, which you are the observer, everything can be measured from that, and there is no other frame on something else at which you have to measure. So it's both mathematically and physically redundant. So in my opinion, no, time dilation is very interesting. We can disprove it, and we've disproved it in one of the most famous experiments, but in my opinion, it's not the biggest thing. Now, of course, I'm going to go back and say, oh, Proto-X, how you doing? Let me get back here. Would you agree that assumption of biggest flaw in relative? Okay, there it was. Relative space or quantum gravity could be a better replacement for relative time. Okay, Justin, let me tell you about that. Let's look at your words, because words and the words you use are really, really important. So you're using this relative space or quantum gravity. Okay, relative space. It's a vacuous term. It means nothing. What is it? There's no physicality there. That's like space-time. So be careful. The world is physical. That's why we call it physics. And in fact, the one person in my film, which was a doctor of physics who worked as an experimental physicist at the Stanford Linear Accelerator, very famous place, said there is nothing theoretical about physics, and he actually is not a fan of theoretical physics. So what I need to tell you is the question of relative space or quantum gravity could be easily replacement. No. And all the people that we talk to, all the people who have been working decades on this, almost everyone agrees that this idea of space-time and relative space and space-time continuum, and continuums you can't even have, because that's a perfectly solid thing, and there's nothing like that in the universe either. Continuum can't apply force. So if you look at a vast majority of the science woke critical thinkers, from people who have PhDs from MIT, from Stanford, from Harvard, all those kinds of people, NASA scientists, they will tell you, we got to stop using this space-time or relative space or quantum gravity. What is that? The problem is their math and their terms, and we have no physicality. So if you look at the good models, like ether models, you look at the particle model my father and I have, you look at a lattice model, they all describe light and gravity and everything in terms of real physical things. So that's so relative time. Time is movement. So relative movement, that's like a tautology, or that's you're saying like the blue sun, or the yellow sun. No, it's a yellow sun. It's not relative time. Time is time. Time is something to measure movement. I'm not being clear as I could probably. No problem. That's no problem. No worries. I'm clueless about most science. Is for me, it's fun to see what's being discussed. Absolutely. And you should not sell yourself short, Lisa, because being science woke, one of the problems is in mainstream science, this is a trick they use. I have a meme that I have that it says on that meme that, in fact, think I have it here. I'm going to go look it up here. I think it's on Facebook, my Facebook page. But I have a meme that says something very interesting, and maybe it's in the memes. I'm sorry, I'm going to look this up. But it has to do with what we're talking about. Right when I need it, I can't get to it. Natural philosophy, I'm going to go try there. If I don't find it there, then I will tell you what it says. But basically the problem is, Lisa, is that they will try to intimidate us pretty much. And there we go, CMPS memes. Let me show you this, since I can do that. There we go, CMPS memes. I will go flipping through this. These are really good stuff. We could spend just hours on these, and I don't know if I have the one here, and I probably don't. So, but there are a number of things. But what I was going to say, basically, and what I say in that meme is, it's not the universe isn't paradoxical and complicated. Our theories are. And in fact, if you look at my father and I's theory, you don't even need to know mathematics, and we can explain the whole universe to you. I know that sounds like impossible, but it's very true. In fact, we have people from my friends who have been helping out with our book and stuff, but pretty much everything is a particle, you know, light, everything. And so because of that, that my saying is that be careful to not discount yourself out, because the complexities that they have and the amazing, ridiculous mathematics, we have the entire universe, basically mass going in straight lines, hitting other mass, and you can build the entire universe from that. So imagine you can build it not from one particle, and particles are made of parts infinitum up and infinitum down. So, you know, that's anyways, that will don't again sell yourself short. Relative time as justification for the presence of gravity. Again, relative time, that's just too, it's just enough. I'm sorry, I don't mean to degrade, and it's not a criticism of you or your knowledge or your smartness or anything, but relative time, throw it out. It means nothing. You want to think of what is gravity? What is it physically? You know, I mean, when you drop something, it's a force that's happening. And etherists have their explanation, physical explanation. It's a push. Gravity is a push. Something's pushing that down. We can't see it. Like, I can't see the air, but it's there. So, says Lisa, I do dig the electric universe theory. Yeah, like I said, if you are a person that sort of likes that, also they have a lot of reinterpretations of, or new interpretations of ancient petroglyphs. I can't say that Velikovsky is wrong, that Venus didn't come flying in at 30,000 years ago. I think we'd have a little bit more. I think the only problem with that one is, why don't we have some, you know, maybe I haven't read enough to find out what evidence they have, but I think there'd be a lot more wobbling. I think 30,000 years wouldn't become stable enough in that time. I think there'd be a lot more other signs, but there may be, and I'm not going to tell you there are or aren't. I personally don't follow it so much because it begs a lot of questions, like what's electric field? And why plus and minus charges attract and repulse. Our particle model, for instance, answers that. So in my opinion, our particle model is better, but it's my opinion. But I applaud them, and I recommend anybody who wants to look into them, go, because they create critical thinkers. And we're out there fighting. They're fighting for their point of view. Yay, hey, I got that. Do I? Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Do I have the right output here? Let me see. I gotta get the right output. Nope, that's wrong. Let's try it again, because I think that was not so good. Let me try that again. Probably heard it better that time, even though I hear it here. So there you go. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I dig the intercept. Neutrinos, WIMPs, weakly interacting mass like particles, could be dark matter as seen from the CMB neutrino cluster clouds? Justin Olson. Let me explain to you. I don't know if you've seen this. I think I did one on dark matter. Yeah, I did. I've done, I think, several. Dark matter doesn't exist. Dark matter was postulated because, believe it or not, they don't recognize. Here's the answer to dark matter. The gravitational field around the galaxy is not a point, yet the physicists and the cosmologists treat all the mass in the in this galaxy as a point, as an equal gravitational field. It is not. And we know that because if we shoot, just think to yourself, if I shoot a satellite and I'm going past an arm of the galaxy, it's going to be attracted to that arm because all those masses together are going to have a more gravitational force than the space in between the arms. So when you actually calculate, and we have, let me see, I'll show you that. I can get to that. Go to Wiki, Natural Philosophy. I will now switch over. You go here, you search for, oops, I'm clicking on, of course, the picture of it, which is really stupid. That was Cameron Rebisol, one of my favorite scientists in our group. Here he is, and you must look at this. Okay, and I put this on purpose because we don't have all the papers in our Wikipedia, even though we have 10,000 pages of information, dissident pages of information. It may take a few minutes, minute here because it's got a lot of equations. Not important. There we go. Here's what you do. Take a look at this particular graphic. Very interesting. If you watch this blue line, that is the speed of the stars relative to the center of the galaxy. Do you see the galaxy shape in there? Yep, there is the galaxy center. There's a low point. That's a space. There's a galaxy arm, low point. There's another arm there. Well, when you look at, let me go back. What he did is he says, I'm going to take a look at the gravitational non-uniform field around a bar. And there it is, and he's calculating it there, a star. That's what he's calculating. Again, don't worry about all the equations. It's not a big deal. Now he's calculating in the middle of the bar, and he's doing all those calculations. Now he's going to put them together. Ooh, it's starting to look like a galaxy. So when you do all this, the upshot of it is, you see here in this one here, again, you don't have to know anything math. This Lisa, you can understand this. This is a guy calculating right there. He's calculating that cross there, and those little stars. He's calculating the speed. And what is he doing? He's using a non-uniform gravitational field, because when you're closer to the edge of that, they're going to have a different speed. So the upshot of all this is, when you're done and looking at all of this, and there you go, now he's spreading it out, the speeds of the stars in the galaxy, which are in the edge of the galaxy, which are supposedly going fast, which are measured to go faster, are going faster not because of dark matter. That's where dark matter and dark energy come from. It's postulated from the idea that you have a problem to understand of why Kepler, or Newton in this fact, can't explain the speed of the stars on the edge of the galaxy. Why do they do that? Because they treat the galaxy as a point mass. Now, why don't they know it? Why don't they read Cameron's paper? Well, the reason they don't do it is because it would open up a huge can of worms. They'd have to say dark matter doesn't exist. Although, going back to Pyro 314's question, this is one of the areas. There are some people in the mainstream, now that remember I thought that was a good question. There are two things in mainstream science that people are starting to talk against. Quantum mechanics, dark matter. So, before you ask the question, neutrino WIMPs, neutrinos don't exist. That's, those of us who've looked into it, please look at neutrinos.autodynamics.org. So, throw neutrinos out. I'm sorry, they don't exist. So your question about dark matter and neutrinos, throw them out. Neutrinos exists because of special relativity, which is wrong. And if you apply special relativity to radioactivity, you have to invent a neutrino. So it was invented. It was invented before it was found, and that's bad in science. To rehash this. And of course, dark matter is not needed at all. You can calculate it using our model, which is our model. Guess what? The particle model thrives upon the geometry of mass and calculating gravitational fields, and it doesn't really calculate, well, you can calculate them, but you can calculate the forces. So if you have one of those dumbbell potato asteroids, guess what? I have one. Take a look at it. It's one of my more recent videos. I talk about that. I talk about that a potato-like asteroid, and guess what they say in the article? Well, we have to calculate it because it's got a abnormal gravitational field. Why don't they do that with galaxies? Because they want to win a Nobel Prize finding dark matter, and they're going to find it. Believe me, they're going to find it, even though it's all baloney and garbage. So that answered you. I hope, Mr. Olson, you're not going to leave me running away. Please investigate it yourself. Don't believe what I'm saying. But I will tell you, I've got 20, 30 years experience with these people, hanging out with them, looking at this stuff. I've taken a lot of time to look at it. And I do have a bachelor's in advanced calculus, so I do know math and all that stuff. And I understand a lot of things what are being talked about. Let's see here. Hypotext, I don't really know the layman terms, what the relative side is supposed to be. Okay, don't forget to get plenty of vitamin D. Haha. Oh, I do. I get vitamin 12. Vitamin B12, I think, is what I get too. But I eat. You get all the vitamins you need from vegetables, and I eat lots of beans. I eat lots of rice. I eat lots of pasta. It's all just whole wheat pasta. The number one thing, if I tell you, that's really bad for you is oil. No, there's no good oil. Any oil in your bloodstream starts tearing down the whatever wall that is. Go to nutritionfacts.org, and that's all scientific based stuff. It's pretty cool. Well, I experience the world as a flow of information. Absolutely. Physical models are just built to reproduce the stream of information. You're talking about pyro. You're talking about perception. You may like to take a look at, what's his name? George Coyne. You want to take a look at George Coyne. He talks about consciousness and all that from, let's see, youtube.naturalphilosophy.org. Mr. George Coyne actually has a book at it. In fact, that's what I'll do. I'll go to Amazon. Those of you like to think about consciousness and all that and computer-wise, I'm a computer scientist. Have been a long time. This is I was never into these kinds of books, but George Coyne cornered me in Vancouver during our conference, and I'm trying to look up his stuff here. And he actually, I'm not going to find it, of course. Coyne, YouTube.naturalphilosophy.org. If you go, this is one of the reasons we're putting together this website, because these things can be looked up right away. In fact, I'm so stupid, I can show you the website, sciencewoke.com, because I am building it. I don't know if I have it logged in on this one, though. Shoot. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm logging in. I'm not going to show you this part of it. Get in, get in, get in. Yay! I'm in. All right. So let's take out the Science Woke, and let's see if I have him here. All right. I'm going to show you now. This is a preview of our website, Become Science Woke. Scientific revolution here, and here's why. That is an article I'm writing that I think is going to be a seminal article in, this is all squished up, you can't see all the titles. I'm not going to show you that because that is an amazing article. I think it's going to mark our age in an observation. It's just the observation. All right, let's go to it. I'll go over here. If I spread it out more, which I can, I think it starts giving me, there we go. I don't have much space here, but there we go. We have problems in science, scientists and new theories. Let's see here, scientists, and do we have him? There he is, George Coyne. Specialist on the brain and consciousness and arguments against the Big Bang. He does that also. But he talks about our observations and what we see as consciousness. He has a book on that. Look him up. Here he is. So take a look at that. I was not planning on actually talking about, how do you say, oh, is this off the screen? No. Oh, okay. No, that's on the screen. So anyways, yeah, that's somebody you might want to look into. You're talking about observation. That's one of the things that special relativity gets into as well. You know, it's like it's an observer-based calculation. It has nothing to do with the event of effects, as Dr. Peter Marquardt in my film says. He's really he's a great guy in my films. Okay, mass increase could be due to the field strength neutrino. Well, Justin, I just don't buy the neutrino stuff. Field, again, you have to know what a field is. To us, a field are a bunch of small particles, because field otherwise it's just mathematical. It means really nothing. So, you know, I can't get you off the neutrino. I just don't really want to. I don't want to spend time talking about something that was invented, in my opinion. You can, so you may want to talk to other people like that. But again, 100 years from now, doesn't exist. In fact, the neutrino is not a super popular particle anyways. But again, that's okay. You have absolute right to do that and pursue it 100%. Well, I experienced the world flows. Yep, physical models are just built. Okay, yep. Okay. Proto-X. Tudo bem, cara? Como vai? Guy from Brazil. What is your opinion about the idea of speciality as a theory of perspective? A theory about... Absolutely! Give that guy a cigar. In fact, I'm going to talk a little Portuguese here, just for fun. I'm going to tell him a little secret here. Hey, Petrotex. Protex. Wait a minute. Wait, maybe you're not Brazilian. Proto-X. Yes, you are. I think you are. Proto-X. Se você manda e-mail para mim, david@dissidentscience.org ou .com, desculpa, .com, eu mando link para você ver o meu documentário de graça e você vai ver exatamente uma pessoa falando sobre isso. What I told him was, I said, if he wants to see the movie, I'll get him a way to see that movie there in Brazil. But he's saying exactly what the guy in my movie says, and that is Einstein made a theory that is about the observer-based theory, and it's not about the effects. It's not about what's really happening. In the event of effects, that's what he says. So in my movie, one of the guys in my movie says exactly that. Proto-X, you are right on, in my opinion. All right, let's go down. Dissident Science. I'm off my live gigs in August, but I will be back on them, and I'll use one of your memes. I could give you credit for. Hey, no problem. Absolutely, use the memes. I have people using them. Feel free. Most important to me is getting them out there. I don't care if I'm the one who makes it. The only thing I say to people, the only thing that getting more and more people knowing about me gives me more ability to get more people to know about this. That's all. I seem to be okay spokesman for this, and I am totally happy with that. I'd love to have a lot of people know about what I'm doing, because that means a lot of people will be looking at what I'm trying to tell them about being science woke and being critical thinkers. Dalton 31. Okay, we're bumping between 7 and 9 people. I appreciate everybody. Do you think that the most people that believe Einstein's theories pretend to actually understand? Absolutely great question, and the answer is yes, they pretend to do it. In fact, I will tell you a story of mine which is really cool. When I was in elementary school in Galion, Ohio, where I grew up, a very small town of about 11 to 12,000 people, there was a joke going around, and you would go around the playground and you would gang up on somebody. So the joke was a gang joke. So you had to come up and have all your friends, and the whole thing is you want to fit in, right? That's the whole thing. That's what the joke is about. So here's the joke. I remember it to this day, and I've used this many times talking to people. So here goes the joke to answer the question about pretending to understand Einstein's theories. So the joke is this. You come up and to an isolated person like myself. I had it happen to me. And then, of course, we did it to other people. It's like terrible, you know, you kids. So I said, by myself, and this group of kids that I knew, some older than me, came up and says, "Hey, Dave, want to hear a joke?" And I go, "Yeah, you want to be cool in a joke." "Okay, here's the joke. There was a polar bear, and the first polar bear went down the slide, and he goes, 'Whee!' And then the second polar bear goes down the slide, and he goes, 'Whee! I'm a radio.' And they go, 'See, get it?' And I'd be thinking, I was pretty smart. I was a nerdy kid, you know. So I'm thinking, I go, and I couldn't think of anything. I'm thinking, this is giving me a blank. I don't get it. But everybody's around making it. Come on, you got to get it. Come on, everybody gets this. You're really dumb if you don't get it. So he goes, 'I get it. Yeah, I get it.' And they go, 'Ha, ha, ha. There's nothing to get.'" And that's what happens with special relativity, especially special relativity, and general relativity too. Here's the other story that I make up. I've said many times. You have two students in Physics 101 class. The teacher today is talking about special relativity. They say that mass increases when you get close to the speed of light. The one engineering student raises his hand and says, "Professor, what causes that? Why is that happening? Because I'm an engineering student and we got to know why." He goes, "Well, no, the laws of the universe state that it happens." Now, if you're the engineering student that says, "Well, that's nice, it still didn't answer my question," and then the person next to him is a physics student, and the physics student raises his hand, who wants to be a physicist, and he goes, "Well, I know why. It's because Einstein's postulates state that the speed of light is observed. It should be observed at the same speed, no matter the relative motion to the inertial frame that it's in and you're in, and that all physics should be the same in all inertial frames." And then everybody applauds, and he's a guy, and the engineering student says, "It still didn't answer my question." So what happens? What's the difference between? Then they both take the test, and they all get 100% on the test for special relativity. Well, what's really happened? Well, the engineering student says, "You didn't give me an answer. I don't believe this." And they don't. My dad actually said that in the movie. It didn't make the movie in the final cut, but he did say that. And then it turns out that the physics student says he understands it, but it's not because it's intelligible. In fact, it's unintelligible. And the way I say it is that special relativity is paradoxical and unintelligible, and the only way you understand it is to pretend it makes sense and it's not paradoxical. And that's exactly a couple stories about that. It's pretty cool. All right, love the sound effects. Yay, like this one. Shoot myself when I'm looking at something that just drives me stasis. Shoot me now, because I just don't think the human race can be that stupid. Do you think that some physicists try to scare us by using math? I am terrible at math and intimidated, but I wonder if they do this on purpose. Thoughts? Yes, and in fact, I think they actually try to do the opposite as well, like E equals mc squared, which is the most famous equation in all of physics. They also try to lull us to sleep with equations that look really simple, that mean lots of very squirrely things, lots of variables, for instance, that they have, lots of Greek letters, and they do try to scare us. They say it's very simple. Here's a secret, Lisa, that if you look, let's take the black holes. Black holes. There's a Schwarzkopf, I think it's Schwarz something equations for those. This is really tough mathematics. It really is. But when you look at it, it's got so many fudge steps through the 50 steps that it is so broken that you don't even know where to start. Stephen Crothers is the guy who talks about this. And in fact, if you go to star something, Stephen Crothers, what's that called? Sky Scholar. Go to Sky Scholar, look up Stephen Crothers, and you will see there a guy talking about it. And basically what happens is even the math equations that they show you that look very simple, that maybe only have 3 or 4 or 5 symbols, and they try to explain it. The reason it's so wrong is because they've made so many wrong steps to get there. They've simplified it. They've done things because they want it to be simple. They know in the end it's got to be simple, but it never is. Particle physics has 19 free variables. What is that? 19 knobs that they use that they can adjust anywhere and anytime they want. What kind of model is that? There's no such thing. That's not a model at all. So yeah, the math is, you know, they say it's very important, but at times, like I said, the particle model that we have, you don't need any math to understand how the entire universe works, including electronic circuits. So, and we're writing that still. It says, Lisa, I think math is not for everyone. You need to pay the price to do a lot of effort to learn it. Yeah, yes and no. It really has to do with that the mathematics that they have is wrong. Same with special relativity. Karazani found that. It took him 4 years, between 20 and 24 years of age. Super brilliant guy. IQ out of this world. Found it. And it turns out that he simplified it. So the equation got simpler. Became Newtonian. Still chilling. I have plenty of insight. Still chilling. I have plenty of insight. I don't agree with our current models. Good. Yes, time influence is absurd. It allows for unnatural, irrational occurrences. Yep. I just subbed to his channel. Thanks again. All right, cool. Space-time as a field is treating time as spatial. There's only 3 dimensions from what I can see in the world. We're coming up to an hour, and I'm down to 6 people, and I appreciate you guys being here. What does it say here? What was the peak today? Oh, we got 10 people at one time, but I'm sure people sort of wander in and wander out all the time. So I will talk a little bit about ether. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to bring this in a little bit. So I'm going to talk about ether, and the reason I'm going to talk about ether is I've heard a lot of people, even my subscribers, talk about ether. And says, does the idea of a photon contradict E equals mc squared? I will talk about this right here in a little bit. That is Daltron 31. Does the idea of a photon contradict? Well, the idea of a photon is problematic in itself. A photon is sort of like an energy, how do you say, a bunch of kinetic energy that's enough of it that hits something, and that photon came from the photoelectric effect from Einstein, the idea that light hits something and knocks out an electron. And if it's knocking out an electron, then it's a particle itself, it's called a photon. But light's a photon, light's a wave, it's the wave-particle duality. We don't know if it's a wave, we don't know if it's a particle. So the problem with the photon is that it's really nondescript right now. It's a paradox itself. We don't know what it means. So to contradict equals mc squared, the way I would look at it is, what's your model for the photon? And they don't have one. We have a model for the photon, and we don't have a photon. Light is waves of particles. Gravity is just the particles themselves coming at you. Light is the same particles coming at you in waves. But at least what reason I'm telling you this, that's what we think it is, but it doesn't. That's just one model, but it's a physical model. So tell me what your physical model is of the photon, and I'll be able to answer your question. So that's the way I look at it. That's one of the problems with lots of questions we ask. The wording of it, we have to tear it apart and say there's no question there, because you're using words that are vacuous, like, you know, space-time or relative time, or the fabric of space-time. And what is the fabric made of? What is that? And you can't get to the question because you're full of stuff there like a photon, which is really not understood at all. I know a photonics expert. I've told the story from the University of Connecticut. He basically worked 35 years on photons. That's all he did. He's a photonic expert. He says we know nothing about it. In fact, he wanted to take 1/5 of a photon energy and take 5 1/5 photon energy emitters shoot them at a 1-photon detector, and if it goes off, all bets are off, because then where's the photon? He just made a fifth of it and shot it at it. Well, our particle model explains exactly that can happen, because a photon isn't one particle. It has to be a lot of particles of something coming at you in waves. Okay, ether. I'm going to make sure, I'll keep looking at you guys here. We got 6 watching. We'll continue here, and I know I have a lot of people watch this later. They actually enjoy that. So this is from our topic database. It is, you go to db.naturalphilosophers.org, and you get to this. It's a database. You click on topics, and one of them you get as ether. So, and if you look here, to tell you how popular ether is, if you look right here, there are 447 abstracts as we have listed as being about ether. 400 and let's see, last updated. Oh, yeah, it should be last published year. Let's see if we can do that. I don't know if this works. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not getting them by year, but that's okay. I'm working on the database, folks. It's been around a while. It's old. We have 447 abstracts. We have 55 books that have and relate to ether. We have 94 etherist scientists. We have 14 websites. So all these people are etherists. Lots of them we don't have their picture, because we get them from, we spent from 2008 to 2010 getting everybody we could who was involved with ether. You can see these people, and you can click on them. And we have down here ether books. You can see that the display is bad. Dave, fix that. You got your divs wrong in your HTML code. What are you doing there? But you can see these people, many etherists. And of course, one of my favorite etherists is Jeff Yee. So if you want to look at two theories that I would look at about ether, and that would be Jeff Yee and Glenn Borkert. And if we go to Amazon, let me get offline here while I do that, because that way we're not bopping around where we don't need to be. All right, Amazon, I'm going to go there. I'm going to say, if you want to read a book, the Universal Cycle Theory. Universal Cycle Theory. Now, if you are like Lisa and you are not super mathematical or science background at all, you can still read this book, because it talks about much like what I do. It doesn't have a lot of math in it. Let's take a look at it. Here it is, The Universal Cycle Theory by Stephen Pletz and Glenn Borkert. In there, he talks about the infinite levels of ether. The reason his is better than, I think, his advantage over Jeff Yee is that Jeff Yee doesn't talk about the infinite levels of the universe, which we have to have. And I'm going to talk about that in a video coming up, folks. I'm going to tell you why infinity is needed, and why because mainstream stuff doesn't, one of the reasons mainstream stuff is stuck, because it doesn't address infinity. That's one. Another person is Jeff Yee. Oops, what am I doing? I'm moving this around like a ding-dong here. Okay, let me go to Jeff Yee here. Jeff Yee, I think he sells it for free. The energy wave theory. There it is, particles of the universe. Look how much it cost. $0. You can look at that. It's got more math in it, but it is a great simplification of the current system. Those are two of the best ones out there. But I'm going to go to get off here, like I said, so get offline, take a look, go to youtube.naturalphilosophy.org. And I'm going to go to one of my videos and one of my video playlists. Go there. The video conference talks. No, we want to go to CMPs 2018. There we are. And I will go to the one that I did on ether. Here we go. And I will show you that now. I don't know if this is going to happen. Oh. So anyways, this is me talking about, and I will stop that, hold on. And you don't have, well, it is somewhat technical, but basically the problem, ether has problems, and the people in the dissident science world will not accept the fact that ether is very attractive because light looks like a wave. So what is ether? The idea of ether is that the same way we have sound waves in the air, and those are waves that happen from my mouth and they go out in all directions. That's the way light looks. So it must be a wave in something, and they call that ether. But it's not the only way to do things. It turns out that ether is not the only solution. That the particle model, you can do it without ether. That the waves can come in waves of particles, like I said, my father and I, or it can be a lattice theory. What is a lattice theory? It's like a lattice. It's like you have maybe the universe is filled up with these certain particles, and these particles make spaces and gaps and things, and those gaps travel by particles just moving. So if you have like billiard balls and you sort of put them together in a with your hands, and you push it, and then the space moves, and the billiard balls move like that. They're not moving, but the space is moving. That's a lattice theory. You have the ether theory, and the problem is it's not the only one. And I would say 90% of the people in our group are etherists, and I keep telling them ether has inherent problems which are not solved, which are transverse waves, and they have to add gravity as an afterthought, and none of them can explain lasers. None of them. And our model explains perfectly lasers. So that's one of the things you may want to take a look at this. This is under John Chappell. That's our natural philosophy website, youtube.naturalphilosophy.org. Go to the CMPs 2008 videos and take a look at this one for those who want to see my argument about how people, and it's how people all choose and jump on the ether board, and that's why I say the disingenuous phrase, because I see this everywhere, that the problem in physics is we abandon ether. Well, we abandon ether because there are problems with ether theory. And then my father came along in 2015 and came up with a new solution that I thought was way better. So I jumped off the idea of ether, even though I was sort of on the fence with it, because I always thought it was problematic. So this is one of the things I will talk about more in depth, or sort of more succinct in my videos. I'm going to talk about ether theory, lattice theory, and the particle theory. Maybe I'll talk about each one of those or all of them together. But this is a definitely good one to go to if you are interested in learning about why I think everyone jumps onto ether. I tell you why emotionally people jump onto ether. And think of that because, you know, it just makes so much sense. And also that it's got problems, and that there are other, in fact, we shouldn't be saying that the problem with physics, I tell you at the end of this talk, I'll tell you the end, is that we should change the phrase from ether was abandoned, meaning, to a physical model of light has been abandoned for wave particle duality, photons, but it's not a photon because it's a wave, and it's so. Anyways, okay. Let's go here. Ether theory was where Einstein generation was in their evolution of cosmic understanding. Since then, we have been at a standstill. Yes, but I would reword that, Justin. Again, I would reword that. We've been at a standstill because we refuse to give physicality to, you know, that's what you have Einstein talking about space-time. He never gives a physicality ever to what that is. They call it the quantum foam. They don't know what it is. So the reality is, and I'm writing that article on the, it's called Why We're in a Scientific Revolution. I talk about that. So, you know, I understand you've got all your logic there, but you know, the way I'm going to say it, Justin, is that logic can be blown out of the water, because if it turns out that the particle model is a better model than the ether model, then all the stuff we talk about ether and all this and abandon and it's all for naught. So be careful. Just understand. You should be saying like, well, if you do subscribe to the ether theory, was Einstein's generation was in the evolution of cosmic understanding? No. Einstein was in an arrogant time, and I write about that in my article. That's when people thought they were smarter than the universe, and that their brains were smarter than the universe, and that they were going to dictate the way the universe works, and that's why they've been invent particles and then pretend to find them. So Einstein was no different. He imposed two paradoxical postulates or theorems or assumptions. It's better to call them assumptions. That's what we call them. He had two assumptions that he made of the universe, which are assumptions are things that you cannot argue. You say that are my foundation. I won't argue them. And those two assumptions are paradoxical. And why? Because he says everything, all physics is the same in all frames. Yet if you have light and it's traveling at a relative speed to you, you have to measure it. Your frame isn't the same as another because that frame has to have time slow down and length contract and mass increase. So careful, careful, Justin. I'm here trying to be your science therapist. I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I think you're sort of, how do you say, entrenched in what you're thinking. That's okay. But it's also can be dangerous because we've thought about a lot of this stuff already and had a lot of debates for many decades. But you can say that if you there are a lot of etherists out there for sure. So that is I won't answer it because I think we're talking about ether theory, which is not established in the outside the mainstream yet, even though people think it is. So. I thought Einstein was one who pushed out on stage to deny ether. Lisa! Absolutely. Applause for Lisa. And you said you don't know the science stuff. Absolutely. The whole idea was that Einstein was the ether killer. And I want to read why that's not true. And well, I mean, again, you have to believe in ether, but... Dr. Karazani actually was a graviton modelist, so he's more on our side in the particle theory. So anyways, yes, absolutely. He was the one who said, off with your head, ether. They were looking for it in the 1800s, in the 19th century, and couldn't find it. I'll leave these words of etherists, also catastrophicists. I think I might be one. Yeah, you can be. I'm not so much. I think a lot of the processes were happening under that. Do you sell any merch? Who's that? Me? I don't, because people don't really want it yet. So I have this great logo right there. It's pretty cool. But I'm thinking about maybe making something that's just my logo, but maybe making one of the things from my memes. Maybe a t-shirt from that, because those are where you get really good t-shirts. And let's see if I can find my meme. I'm going to go to my Facebook page, David. And I know I have it under my I think I'm back. I'm sorry, I lost everybody. My OBS disconnected. Am I back? Maybe my Facebook disconnected it. Am I still there? Do people see me? Have I? Oh, you do. Okay. All right. I'm hoping I'm still there. Okay. Yes. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. I was talking about my meme, and then I got booted off of that. I'm going to try to get back to that. And see if it doesn't, maybe that's what disconnected me. Hopefully I won't do that. I'm going to see if I can grab this meme here. Okay. All right. Oh, don't do this again. Maybe I shouldn't do it. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Now I got you. The universe isn't complicated and paradoxical. Our theories are. This must change. So this is one of my theories. I love making up. Since I was like 8 years old, I came up with. My first one was no one knows till the wind blows. I was 8 years old. I remember that. It was like flying kites. So yeah. So maybe I don't know if there's merchandise. That's I don't know if people would buy it. I will make it. Because I'm sort of an artiste, so I can make it myself. I don't even have to have somebody. We talk about what Einstein was wrong about. What was he right about? Very good, Daltron. Good question. Give that guy applause. Well, he's sort of right on the photoelectric effect, but he's not. His description of what's really happening isn't. So that's an interesting part. So actually the idea that light is a photon and was a particle, I mean, that was something sort of on track. He did say, I think a lot of people who knew him, because I did interview one of his friends. Yes, I talked with one of Einstein's friends extensively for hours. And at that time it was 2005. He was 87 at the time. Jack somebody. Oh, I can't remember. Anyways, I do have a video about him, and I'll remember his name. But anyways, most people who knew him thought that if he were alive today, he would have, first of all, it wouldn't have been published because they would have called him a crackpot. But I think he would have been very open to, he said, if certain things aren't true, then my whole theory falls down. And he's actually true because he made some very specific assumptions. And of course, his own assumptions for special relativity, Dingle, I think his name was Dingle, funny name I know, was one person who fought him. It's going to be on our Science Woke website. He was fought. There wasn't, not everybody believed him, but that's a good question. I'm not sure I'm going to have a great answer for that, but that's a good question. What was Einstein right about? So let's see. I need to get back on you on that one. I think we need to be loving and tender toward Einstein. Keep in mind, I'm up late. Well, actually, we get accused of being, how do you say, anti-Semites, because people who are Jewish will call people who criticize his theory people who are against Jewish people. And that one, of course, boo, that ain't right. That has nothing to do with it. In fact, in my movie, we have Dr. Peter Marquardt say, I sort of like Einstein. He was a pacifist. He was a great guy. He worried about, the bomb being dropped, even though his equation E equals mc squared has nothing to do with the atomic bomb. You can look that up on atomic bomb sites. It'll even say that. But regardless, he was sort of one of the big guys, so he put his name on it. And so, anyways, that's interesting. But still, great question is, what is he right about? Wow, I got something right. Yes, you did, Lisa. Wouldn't expanding Earth be a bit catastrophic? No. I think the catastrophic part is like for like the catastrophic people, especially in the electric universe, are that lots of things like the Grand Canyon was created by lightning strikes. I don't see that, only because I see the Grand Canyon being caused by Earth's expansion, but I think there are catastrophes for sure. But I think a lot of things that people attribute those catastrophes, in my opinion, aren't from catastrophes. But do you have the right to do that and pursue it? Absolutely. You can even write a paper about it and submit it to us, and we'll put it in our, if it's a scholarly paper and it's got ideas, you don't have to agree with it. But I personally am not a catastrophic, even though there are catastrophes. Yes, like, a big asteroid smacking into the Earth. Yes, we're still here. That's when I got cut off. Do you think we, as a civilization, could potentially create a device or vehicle to beat light speed? Justin Olson. It all depends. You know what I'm going to say? It all depends on your model. You want to know what our model says? The particle model? Well, it says that the gravitons, gravity and light are the same particle going at the speed of light. Gravity, light, electricity, all of that stuff that's traveling at the speed of light, they're the same particle. And you can actually, there's no problems with that actually, even with the stuff that you see. Well, guess what? For those things to change, like when you put it in a prism, you have a prism and the light comes in and it makes that rainbow. Well, light is bending, and it's not space-time that's bending it. It's a gravity to a level down. So if you think as light, waves of light as being waves of comets running through our universe, well, the gravity for that is a gravity one level down. So if the G1 particles are now the Earth and we go up a level, then again, what gravity is to push our particles, our planets and heavenly bodies around, G1 particles or gravitons or light, that is one step down. And guess what? For light to go at the speed of c, for the G1 particle to go at the speed of c, or whatever that you want to call it. You want to call it the photon, you want to call it the electron, you want to call it the electricity, you want to call it whatever. If that's going at the speed of light, the speed of G2 particle is going to be at c squared. Now, if you can take and make a device that uses G2 particles to communicate, we can communicate, I calculated, in less than a fourth of a second, we could communicate to Mars. So if there were other civilizations and that's the way the universe would really work, then we could be having G2 waves being sent at us all the time with communication. We're not reading them. So the question is, with our model, can you actually get things faster than the speed of light? That's a good question. And right now, technically, I don't see a way yet, because if atoms are made of nucleons, and nucleons are being orbited by G1 particles or electrons, and those are going at the speed of c. If we're going at the speed of c and we're hitting the spaces full of these particles going in all directions, like an ether, but these are moving particles. Ether is a stationary particle. Then you have the problem of, is that going to tear apart atomic structure? And if it's going to tear apart atomic structure, we'd have to come up with a technical way to go one level down in the universe and start engineering the one level down periodic table, because we have atoms at our level, and then the nucleons of atoms have atoms that make up those nucleons at another level. That's what the infinite universe sort of says about the way things are. Again, you got to study that to understand why we say that. But the truth of the matter, in our particle model, there are things that go faster than the speed of light. Yes, and it goes squared, cubed, but you get down and down in levels, and then the question is, can those levels percolate and hold up at the level we're at? So, and if you think about it, that's pretty darn neat, because before that, this model, I don't think we really can say much about anything like that, because no one has models that can answer those questions. Okay, very good question, though. Okay, House, look at it for civilization's hideous action. Yeah, Lisa, I'm a progressive, voted Bernie Sanders, voted Green Party. I know I have lots of conservative friends who are creationists. I'm not that, but I respect everybody's opinions. And our world right now, when we have 8 human beings that have the same wealth as the rest of them, I thought utopian societies, the best thing is to spread it around, so that no child should ever be born on this planet without the opportunity to have a decent life. And where you're born means everything, and that means our society is primitive, but progressives are the rescue here in this country, and the young people. Tesla has a much better was much better and couldn't be doing this couldn't be without him. Well, Dulcin 31, I think we worship him a little too much. A good thing about him, he was an experimentalist, which I always love. And then the bad thing is that because we didn't have a model of what he was trying to do, he was trying to force upon, for instance, the transmission of power. Like, you know, you can run stuff, you can have power, you can have waves of electromagnetic waves. G1 particles is basically what it is. You can have enough of them that it will actually power things and be picked up of it. We do that already. I've got my Apple Watch, which can be run by putting it on top of something that it's not even touching because of the magnetic field. But our model explains all that. But Tesla, I think, is a little bit overblown because he didn't have a model like to understand what he was doing. So if he had the model today and he had the particle model, I think he would go to town with the particle model. That's my opinion. So I listened to a bit to Walt Thornhill, and he allows for the expanding Earth. Yes, he was asked, it's really funny, Lisa. Just for you know that I've seen the evolution of the electric universe for over 10 years now. And they have gone to laughing at the idea that Einstein's wrong, to Walt Thornhill talking about it and other EU people talking about it, not believing in the expanding Earth, to now subscribing to that. So a lot of the things that our group actually was subscribing to, and they were laughing at, they are no longer laughing at it, but that's okay. They were critical thinkers. They laughed at the beginning, they took a look at it, and they believed. I've looked at their stuff. I tried to have debates the way we do in the CMPs with them, and it wasn't too welcomed. Now, I don't look at that as a criticism of them. They have the right to have a group that says, okay, you subscribe to sort of the electric universe, or you don't. But if you do go up there and challenge basic and fundamental problems, for instance, with the electric universe, like what's a field? Or what's charge? There tends to be, I have found some very emotional reactions. But again, I do not criticize them because they have a lot of critical thinkers, and a lot of them don't subscribe to everything in the electric universe. Just like a lot of people that I'm saying believe in the neutrino. They believe space-time. They believe in some parts of relativity. They believe gravity bends light. So all that stuff. So how are we doing here? Total view, okay. We have, I don't know how many people are doing it because I had to get off of it over here. I don't know how our attendance is going because I know at a certain point I will be stopping. We're coming up to an hour and a half, which is usually when I stop. Let's see here. That's good though, Dave, because at least they looked into it. Yep. Even though I'm not a scientific per se, I know to say something is unsettled science. Yep, absolutely. Just one note to follow up to my invitation to peer. The comment is in fact hidden. No explanation why. John Otter, I will make a conjecture. I believe that Pierre Marie Robert, I think isn't he an electric universe person? If you could answer that to me in the chat. I do see your comment, and there was no. But isn't he from the electric universe? Because I started to think about it, and I am not popular there still. Lisa, a comment on another really okay. Yeah. So John Otter, again, that guy. If he is, take a look at that and see, because a lot of those people shun me, and that's okay. They have the absolute right to. Like I said, I don't get upset with people not liking me or not liking what I say. That's not a problem. As long as those people are trying to critically think and challenge mainstream, no matter how different it may be or how I may disagree with the way what they are proposing, nope, I don't have a problem with anybody. And I think anybody who does do those kinds of criticisms are not so good. So on that side, I think me criticizing me, yeah, I think that's not a good thing, because I tell people all the time, I've shoved many people in that direction of the electric universe, and I said, if that's your thing, cool. So I'm not sure why they haven't been that way with me. He works with Ben Davison. Yes, kinda. Yeah, that's why. Yeah. He doesn't want me because he's afraid I will say things. Hey, I love being on here, and I was just wondering, what does the electric universe say that the electric field really is? And oh yeah, and what is charge? Because and I think they don't want to have those questions asked, and that's okay. Again, no criticism, free world, free think. So, anyways, folks, let me just check before I head off here to make sure I don't have, because if depending on the audience. Sorry about here. I'm like wasting time, and I shouldn't be doing that, but here we go. 5 people watching. No, I'm going to get off of this, come back in, and see how many people are here. Let's see. Should have a red dot there. There it is. Live and kicking. There it is. And we have connected to AirPlay. I'm not sure, but I guess you guys are seeing it. And oh, I have it on pause. That's kind of dumb. Connected to AirPlay. Oh, that's why. It's connected to AirPlay. It's trying to play it somewhere. So I'm not sure how many people are actually here. So let me see if I can find that somewhere else. I thought they would have the number of people on their live page here, because I've been 1 hour and 31 minutes. So let me look here. I will check out with John. Will be e-learning most frustrated. Where can I see your model? Do you have a video where you explain? Yeah, go to particle. Go here. YouTube.particle.guru and look at the trailer. But no, the truth is we're still writing the book, and when you get the book, you will be able to understand it, because it's no math. All right. There's an idea that superluminal movement is somehow analogous to supersonic. Yes, cannot measure the supersonic motion with echolocation, but it doesn't mean that you can move faster than the speed of light or faster than the speed of sound. What is relativity doing? Some people say that measuring the movement through light. Proto-X, if you're talking about superluminal movement, I do talk about that. You can't go faster than the speed of light with the way in the mechanisms we're using today. Because why? Even in particle accelerators, because the things that we're using to move it are at the speed of light. So you can't use something that's the speed of light to go faster than the speed of light. That is, if you have the only way you can't even do that in a rocket. If you had unlimited fuel, everything that we know that's being released around an atom is going the speed of light. So if you have everything the speed of light that you're using to push yourself, you're never going to go faster than it. It has nothing to do with breaking the barrier. So I hope that sort of answers that question. But doesn't that mean you can go fast? Yeah, no. So yeah, you sound unfamiliar with Dr. R's work. Please take a look at the sky. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not poo-pooing. I love the Sky Scholar, even if he doesn't like me. I love him. He's doing a great service. See, I'll just give you a. I'm not like giving any, but people don't like me. Yeah, boo to them. I'm a nice guy. I can't see light reflected off light speed object. Yeah, Justin, that's no. Again, you got to go back, Justin. Got to go back. Tell me what your whole model is, because you're talking about light reflected off what? How does light work? You got to tell me that. Again, I can tell you that because we have a model for it. So you can't. That's one problem. We don't have a model for anything. The standard model is anything but a model. And that's why we're always doing it. Are you planning to post any of the old MPA videos at the MPS channel on the old MPA YouTube channel? You know, David, gosh, I wish I did, but I don't have access to that anymore. And that's because we stupidly had a long stuff, how do you say? We had a long breakup because of, I can say it, some idiot people. And basically, we stupidly handed that over without knowing. But I do have some videos here, actually. Got a box of videos of stuff. So yeah, I mean, if we have videos, I can try to get them up again, but they're on there is a worldnpa.org, so I think that, I wonder if it's still around. YouTube, look up World MPA if it's still there. And somebody who took it over, it's all dead now. It's really not working. Yeah, the Natural Philosophy Alliance, it has 108 videos. There you go. Can't get at them. So there you go. You learned something. I'm going to show it to you. Voila! There it is. This is what I used to do for the MPA. So there is. I guess they had one conference after we broke up. But if you look at this, most of these are from what? In fact, there's one of mine. Consensus in science is wrong. Look at that, something new you learned. So this is from our previous stuff. I don't know if the guys even has that, if we can actually reclaim that. Probably can't. Sad. Well, there's a way to get at them. I'm not going to tell you. I'm a computer person. I know how to hack. But maybe I can get at them. So that answers your question. All right. I think this is going to be it for tonight. I don't have how many people are here. Unless people have some other questions. Any more questions from everybody here? Because we've been here, according to this, 1 hour and 36 minutes. I will see if I can get back. I can't. Somebody see the number of viewers we're having right now. I don't want to like cut us off and find out that we have. I don't think we have a lot of viewers. Probably like 4 or 5. Very important ones. No problem. So I can't see it. I'm going to AirPlay. Something stupid happening with my channel. Sorry to waste time here. People are like, what are you doing, Dave? Well, I'm trying to find out how many people are here before I go ripping off into the sunset. But I'll probably stop it here. Live. 6 watching. Well, yeah, all right. If you guys have any more questions, I can answer them. But, you know, what I would say in general, folks, is be careful of the wordings you use. Be careful that if you don't have a model, that when you're asking questions or when you're talking about stuff, that you don't talk in sort of vacuous terms. You don't talk about stuff that we don't really know what's happening with. And that's why we have people working on the ether models. And I would suggest, if you're not working on your own model, which you could be, and that's totally fine, that you start to try to look at models that you may like and want to learn about. If you want to learn about ours, go to youtube.particle.guru. And my father talks about the particle model. It's not exactly the best because he is a particle model in the brain, but how often do you do a Q&A? Well, I do this every Friday because it turns out that my family seems to be gone, and my wife is not a super huge fan all the time of this stuff because, and when we broke up between the two, when we broke from the MPA to this organization, I actually lost my job because I was so distressed about everything. So my person. Do you respect Noam Chomsky's fellow? He goes, oh my gosh, Noam Chomsky is an absolute amazing human being. As a linguist, you know he's one of the most important person in linguistics ever, and his views, political views, are, I agree 100% with what he talks about. So yeah. See, Dalton, you should check out the Theory of Aphosis on YouTube channel by Ken Wheeler. He has stuff with magazine. I think I probably have. I've looked at it, yeah. I think what we're trying to do right now is I don't always have a time to talk about them because, again, I can tell you about the problems with people's theories, but right now we're trying to gather them. And in fact, Daltron31, send me an email to david@dissidentscience.com and, you know, put that in there because we're making our website, Science Woke, and in there we need to put him as one of the feature people who has theories. So that's what we want to do, is to put him in, get his face there and theories, because our whole goal is to show lots of different theories. Yeah, Lisa says he's known as a political dissident. Absolutely, I watch Chomsky's stuff all the time on Facebook. I see him all the time talking about amazing things and how good. He's really good. He's an extremely brilliant man. I've watched your father's videos about relativity. I'm correct to interpret his overall argument as relativity is ambiguous. Yeah, that's part of it, yeah. Because he made assumptions and any Einstein would disagree, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, you're spot on, Protex. Exatamente certíssimo. All right, again, you have any questions or comments? I'm still here. I will stop if you guys want to stop. There's a lot here for you, and if you guys are watching this and recording, I think we covered a lot of stuff. Man, it's like I can see why a lot of people like this, because they get a lot of, how do you say, you get a lot of stuff that people I don't necessarily talk about show on my other videos. As an uneducated with a super genius IQ 160, I only study physics as a hobby. My model will closely represent what they teach in the mainstream. See, my model will closely represent what they teach in the mainstream. Cool. Yeah, well, you seem to be a very bright person. I know lots of bright people. IQs, some, you know, they're pretty good. You know, I was tested too, and it's pretty high. But, you know, I'm not sure, you know, what that really means. One of the things I do say is genius is an illusion. It is. Genius is an illusion. It's something we want to worship. We want to think people have mega brains, especially little kids. I have this idea. Basically, little kids are just accelerated learners. I think, you know, they just get there fast. You don't see like these kids that go to college and get their PhDs by the time they're 12, that they become super duper trooper brains and they just run rings about everybody and solve all. No, they just get there faster. All there is a chemical thing that goes on their brains that gets them to an adult faster, and that's going to someday be totally explained. So, but absolutely, Justin, it sounds like you are very bright, and it's not any way understand that. Just remember, be careful, you know. There are a lot of great and intelligent people in the world, and I'm sure you're one of them. And yeah, you know, I would say to you is you got to study the mainstream. You don't want to build a model necessarily built on a house of sand, a house of cards. So, but anyways, absolutely go for it. As Alexander Unsker says, each one of us should be critical thinkers. We should go out there, and if we have an idea and a model or whatever, go for it. Don't worry about what other people think, because what I would say, Justin, is start writing papers. Come to our group. Submit to our proceedings. We will this month open up our proceedings for the next conference, and you can go there. It's going to be in the state of Washington at the University of Washington in Seattle. So we already have that, and we even have the room ready for that. So anyways, I got to check on that this week. Y caramba, next week, ay caramba. So please, Justin, I invite you to write a paper for our group, even if it's a preliminary ideas of what you're doing. You're going to be around other critical thinkers, and if you keep an open mind, you're going to get better. And remember what I always say, too, if you don't take the criticisms of your own theory, someone else will take the best ideas, make them better, and then take credit for them, because you're going to be left alone in the dark. All right, folks, I think I'm going to go. I do appreciate you guys sticking it out this late, but thank you so much again for all your support. Congratulations on you being here. Look into everything. If look into the electric universe, look into other people's ideas. If you have ideas and you want to start writing about them and getting into our I think it's like $50 a year. You can be a member of our group that pays for all the things that we use to our website and all that stuff. And then our conference is not too expensive at all. We always make those really easy. They're cheap. I think we charge $150 for like 4 days, which is ridiculous. You get a proceedings, a t-shirt, you get great critical thinkers up there talking like myself, yeah, great critical thinker, but critical thinkers like myself talking. And also, you know, just being around those kind of people is just amazing. And we always have like the dorm rooms there are like $45 a night, so it's pretty cheap. There's a cafeteria there, so we try to make it, you know, reasonable. So think about it, folks. You know, we planned, I think they have maybe as many as 50 people this year. Yes, we will be broadcasting live again. So thank you so much. And as I always say, folks, stay critical, stay thinking. I'm Dave D. Hilster. I'm your science therapist. Ciao for now. Science woke.